Hey, how's it going, everybody? Seeing my Black Friday vid that Stormtrooper I picked up at Kmart. Was definitely planning on doing a high gloss paint job on him, but didn't really know when I'd be able to do it because our weather's been crazy here. Keeps going like up and down, up and down, up and down. Like one week it'd be nice out, the next week cold. So next few days are going to be decent. So hopefully I can finish them up tomorrow and show you guys the Stormtrooper all complete. But right now, I'm just going to show it to you half-assed done. And hopefully this camera will let me point out the differences. Because to the naked eye, oh man, big freaking difference. This guy looks so much better in high gloss. Especially in all the black areas. Since they use that just flat black paint, it brings it out. It's a real big difference. Basically looks like a giant version of the little Hasbro dude that I got up there, which is in a high gloss or just glossy plastic. So what I did on this guy was take him apart mostly. Some of the stuff's going to be a little tricky on taking it apart. Some of it I may not be able to, but I'll find that out tomorrow, I guess. I took his arms off, but I haven't separated the pieces, and I don't know if I can. The way they did it is each arm and the torso has this disc on it that fits inside the main piece, and then, let's see, does it have it on this? Yeah, it's got it on that too, so I probably wouldn't be able to separate it anyways, they got this band around it, basically for friction or whatever, so it doesn't eat into the plastic. But that's keeping me from separating some of this stuff, which on the torso a little bit more. Hence, the way they did it is they put the pieces together, and then like his utility belt, his pouches and stuff, one of them is glued on right where the seam is. So this is going to be a tricky part to paint. So I'm going to have to kind of paint around everything, and I really don't want to try and pull apart anything that's been glued, just because some of this is hard plastic, some of it's kind of a rubberized plastic. Hence why I didn't remove his head. I just kept his head attached to the upper body, because I think what they did was they put his upper body together, and then his head's rubbery enough to where they just pushed it on over the disc. Maybe heated it up with something so it was softer, and then let it harden up while it was on. Because I tried, but I couldn't get the two halves to separate. But easy enough to paint around, and it didn't seize up on me. I could still turn his head back and forth, so I could say it turned out really good. Now, other than high glossing them, I did touch up some of the black areas, mostly on the head. All these, they're painted pretty generic, so sometimes they won't be quite on seam or whatever you want to call it. So it's basically just finishing up to get all the lines right. There was a few little spots where it was like a little flake of paint came off or just didn't get painted out right. So looks much better. So Sharpie to do that, and it blends right in, especially once you paint it. Can't tell where you did the Sharpie. And then on the paint, hence why I didn't finish this guy. I had a little bit left in another can, and doing the torso and the head, and on his legs, the bottom of his legs detach to where it's like taking his boots off, and then there's a couple of pegs holding them in place. So they were easy to remove and paint. But that emptied out the last can, and by the time I got home from picking up another can, it was too late to do any more painting. So this is what I get. This is the same stuff that I use to do my custom game systems, because I don't want the paint coming off. This is automotive paint. It's Duplicolor Perfect Match. And this is just protective clear coat finish. And on drying, I was working on them today, and it's like I'm not grabbing on to the painted areas tight. I'm being careful, but you can kind of just tap around on it, and it is dry to the touch, but you don't want to grab it and leave fingerprints or anything. So, mind me, I'm going to be pretty careful trying to show this off to you guys, especially on his top half, where at least where his arms attach, there's a big flat surface that I can stick my fingers in the hole and grab onto, and then the bottom half I didn't paint because he turns at his torso, so why paint it? And it's just going to come all off and get all messed up anyways once it starts rotating. So, again, hopefully this will show up okay. Better off at a distance. All I can say is go on reflection here, guys. I'll show this area close up, but as you can see, the bottom legs there are all nice and shiny now. And as you can see, from there down to his butt, all unpainted. That's what I didn't like. They used this real flat black paint and they just went over it once. They obviously just went over it once, like it was done with a machine. Which, those areas, and then around in here and stuff, good enough. There's just a couple little tiny spots where I had to touch it up. Otherwise, it looks good. Might touch it up around on the belt here and his pouches. Because there's some areas that stick out there, especially on that pouch. As you can see, there's some white in there, so I'm going to fill that in. And let's see. The seam goes weird on this. It goes down and then it kind of zigzags. So it's not this pouch that's glued onto the seam. It is glued in place, but I think it's out of the way. It's this one that is obviously in the way. And then, as you can see, there's a black piece around this. That's what holds the top half on. That looks like it was softer, where they maybe put it on warm and then it shrunk up around it like shrink tape. Or tubing, I mean. So, it would be a bitch to take apart anyway. So this is going to be really fun to paint. Top half here, man, this just came out awesome. Really, really looks good. See, just has a nice shine to it. In fact, that line there, I had to really touch up a lot, man. They were just totally off track. And I noticed on a lot of these, there's little spots here and there, like where it got a little bit of mist off the paint sprayer. All I can say is do it carefully. And at least you're working on white plastics. You're not going to be taking off white paint, but magic eraser. And I recommend on your magic erasers, 99¢ only, Dollar Tree, just dollar stores, man. You can get like a 2-pack, and sometimes if you're lucky, you can get a 4-pack for $1. Those dang things are like little foamy miracles. As you can see, head looks a lot better. Trying to show you guys close up, but that's what happens with this stupid camera. It starts reflecting off of it where it just turns real bright white, and then hard to point out what I painted and whatnot, man. I figure once I get them together, I'll try and do an outside vid with my cell phone. It's got a good 720p camera on it, and hopefully it will look better. Because, man, in the sunlight, this guy looks freaking awesome now. It's a real nice shine to him. So, once again, man, Sharpie to fill in any of the black areas, and then if you got an AutoZone and an O'Reilly or Checker Auto Parts, since O'Reilly and Checker are the same place, if they're close enough together, check them both. But usually it's just a few cents different, like 10 cents at most. But right now, AutoZone, I think it was like $7.98 for a can of this stuff, or $7.99. It's not cheap, but it's good automotive paint. And what's nice about this is it dries fast. So if you're having to paint outside like I did, and so I do have a garage, but I didn't want to be inside the garage because I know it's cold in there, and I was trying to paint in sunlight so I could tell where I was getting it to make sure everything was nice and even. But I'd say within about an hour, well, about an hour with their colored paint, and I'd give it another hour with this stuff just to make sure to where it's kind of dry to the touch, but don't grab it hard in one of the areas it's been painted, as it can still be tacky enough to pick up fingerprints and whatnot. Which on this guy, I'll point it out here. All that space where you see the ridges there, no need to paint that because that's where the arm is going to cover it up. So that's a good area to grab onto them. You got a nice hole to stick your fingers in, and then same thing with the bottom half. I didn't paint any of this. I just had it setting on a piece of paper, but it gives you a nice place to grab onto it so you're not grabbing onto the painted spots. And then this bottom half here, I figure I'll just get a cardboard box, cut a hole out of it so this fits through the hole, and then just lay this on flat and paint it upside down. Hopefully that'll be good enough. Point out on his arms here. Kind of the same problem on his arms. They got that ring around it that looks like they shoved it over this disc and then shrunk it up. There's the seam right there. So obviously you're not going to be able to separate it very easy with that on, but should be able to separate it enough. Hence, I haven't tried it yet. I'm just saying, just by looking at it, should be able to pull it apart enough to remove the hands so you can at least do these separate so the glue doesn't seize them up as they do rotate. Otherwise, might as well just keep all this together and just avoid this area. Just got to figure out a way to keep it in an area where it won't be hitting on anything. I'll have to make up some kind of a rig. Otherwise, it shouldn't be too hard. Now on his gun. Another thing that's going to be fun to paint. Do the same thing. Separate it here so I can at least take the hand and gun off as the gun is attached to the damn hand. And it looks like the way they did it is the grip part of the gun is molded into the hand, and then right up in there, hard to show you, but there's some glue, which fortunately on mine it's separated. But the gun is supposed to separate in two halves. I just don't know how they have it fastened to this, and I don't want to try and force anything free, so I'm just going to try and paint around everything. If anything, I'll take the screws out, so at least those won't get covered in glue. Or I mean not glue, but paint. Brain's going bye-bye. And then on the gun, I tried to touch up some of the spots. Same old thing, man, especially like on the scope. The way they painted it, where it ends doesn't quite go flush with the unpainted parts. Especially on this back piece here. Hard to point out, but yeah, the top of that, right where my finger is. I covered up a little bit of it with the Sharpie, but I couldn't get close enough to make it at the seam without getting it all over the parts that I don't want painted. So what you might do is just get one of the Sharpies that's permanent with a really fine point so you can get in there and finish up what they didn't do. Otherwise, it doesn't look too bad. So, didn't want to make this vid insane long so I can get it uploaded tonight. So, the next vid probably be like 5 minutes just showing them off or whatever, but I'm hoping the weather is as good tomorrow. as there was absolutely no wind today, sunny out, so I'm hoping I'll have the same tomorrow so I can finish him. Because I really want to show him off completed, man. I know he'll turn out good. Later, everybody.